Alright, so there we go. I'm actually right in the middle of fixing a bug with the new seeking system in the 4-coder customization API, so I need to fix that because my editor won't work till I do. So, and I'd rather fix it than before I lose my train of thought on this. So the problem is that when I reverse seek, it just goes all the way back to the beginning. Even though it should be finding what it's looking for. These should be zeros, by the way. Position. And I can tell that my computer is running really slowly again. Earlier today I noticed that when I have the webcam on, it has a bad effect on CPU usage, and if I check now, I want to just see. It's not terrible. Is this process down here? Yeah, it's spiking again. That's really weird. Why does that? That's only happening when the CPU is being, or when the camera is being used. If I turn that off, that just drops down to nothing. I'm gonna leave that off for today so that I can experiment with it, because I don't like my computer running that slow. So we'll just live without my face for the day, I think. There we go. Alright. So, anyway, before I do that, let me switch into 4-coder mode for just a moment. Loop. So that I can fix this, and then I'll switch back to Cipher drive mode. So I was trying to fix this bug here. So let's try it. Basic.cpp. If I do to do, oops, I need to build again, I guess. Alright, let's see. If I do basic, and I come down to to-do, if I go up, what happens? So we're looking for to-do. Oh wait, that's the read string. That's supposed to be size 0. Needle string is to-do, size 4. Capital T, size of 4. Okay. Then we init our stream chunk. Our chunk size is... this all seems reasonable. We get some useful text. So then we start streaming. Now we're streaming backwards, so we're gonna go for a while, and this should keep going, but I'm guessing based on what it says in the chunk, there's no to-do between sort of the region that's visible in the end, and there should be a to-do right before that. So that's the to-do before the one I'm on, I'm guessing. So I should get back to here. That's a forward. That should be a backward. That's our problem right there. I don't know why it is I can't notice these things when I read them, but I can see them as soon as they're about to happen. Like, I just can't slow myself down enough to read it in the editor. What I really need is just meta-generate all of this, because I've got basically 4 functions now, case insensitive, case sensitive, forward, and backward, that are all very similar. And I used to combine the forward, backward into one function to reduce duplication, but I don't like the way that that affects speed. I guess it's not a terrible effect in speed, because I could branch at the top, but it's like if you branch at the top, you're still not producing that much duplication. I don't know. I still would have had this backward versus forward bug. So yeah, I just need to generate these, because they're all like identical, except you swap out minuses and greater thans for lesses and pluses, backwards goes with forwards, and backwards and forwards get swapped out. And then for insensitive versus non-insensitive, you just throw in these char to uppers and this insensitive string matching. But I think that means that everything should be back to normal now, and in a more maintainable way, I believe. Uh-oh, what was that? Yeah, I don't love that effect. I forget what I did in the past. I guess that's because I'm saying if I don't find it, return 0, and I think in the past I actually returned -1 to indicate that I didn't find it. So let's try that and see if I get better behavior. Because 0 is like a valid location that it might actually be telling me to go to. And I think -1 would actually mean, oh, I couldn't even find it. Which is a different concept. There we go. That's the behavior it needs to have. Awesome. Okay. So now I can stop working on 4Coder, and I can use the new version of 4Coder that's in development, 407, which is now less buggy than the previous versions of the 4.0x series, 4.0.x series. And we're going to switch over to working on Cipher Drive. So, here we go. That's off, that's on, and switch over to my shmup code, and here we go. Wait, I already have 4Coder open. What I needed to do was to switch over to this and open up the shmup code there. Files open more quickly now, which is cool. Alright, so today what I want to do, let me show you, let me just catch up the viewers that are here with me on the state. Let me catch you up on the state of Cipher Drive as of right now. So we now have this thing that spawns asteroids, and there's a bunch of them, and they fly towards me, and I have, like, if I turn on the debug view, you can see that I've got these 5 lanes that are visible at a time, and I'm actually moving between lanes, and so there's no animation yet, so when I move between lanes, it's like I'm immediately in the next lane, and everything else just moves accordingly. What I'm going to do is say, when I'm moving between lanes, that I'm actually occupying both for a moment, and the lanes sort of, their position will shift on screen. So the ships will always be right at that position, but the lanes will be like moved. So where these debug orange lines go, that's where the lanes are. Those will be like positioned like smoothly from one to the next, so that items on those lanes look like they sort of flow from one position to another as you switch. And yeah, so some other things that go on. Let me just introduce you to the rest of the engine. There's actually a lot of stuff in here that hasn't been shown on stream. So you can see when I have debug on that I've got this green cursor thing moving around, and that's just to show me where the cursor is. And if we've got the sort of Handmade Hero style looping, so if I hit F7, it starts recording a loop. And what that really means is that it grabbed a snapshot of the game state, and now it's recording the input every frame, and that includes where the mouse goes and stuff like that. But it's a little different than Handmade Hero. Now if I start playing the loop, you can see that the loop is playing. Now I've got this yellow cursor. This is where the cursor actually is. The green is a recording of where the cursor was at the time of the frame now. So the yellow cursor is always correct. If you don't see a yellow cursor, then the green cursor is correct. But when you're like playing a loop, the yellow cursor kicks in. I can also pause and resume a loop, or I can pause the game and resume the game. That's all debug stuff. And while we're playing, we can toggle the debug overlay. And basically what's going on here is I have 2 inputs to the game. There's the game input, which when the game ships is the only input that will ever be seen, and that's what gets recorded per frame. Then there's dev input, and dev input never, even when you're playing the loop, the dev input continues to capture the actual state of input, and then the dev code reads the dev input so that it's getting, you know, unique, the real cursor position and the real presses of the F keys and so on, even while the game is looping, right? And the reason for that design decision, to have this dev code that continues to function properly, it even gets all the keyboard inputs like ups and downs that aren't going to the game anymore. I can press up and down, it won't do anything, but the dev input gets the ups and downs. And what I'm planning to do is to build out various dev UIs here, like the debug one that shows where things are, and it should have an entity count, but I kind of got lazy and didn't finish that. And you know, it'll have like entity debugging and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be able to do, I'm hoping to be able to do things like pause the game, click on an entity, and then look at, oh, here's, you know, stats on that entity, and then unpause the game and keep going. Wait a minute, when I unpause, does it start from the beginning? No, it starts from where it was, right? So I just happened to unpause right at the end of the loop. Anyway, today what I want to do is another feature we want to have is we want to be able to hot reload things, and I haven't done hot reloading for the code yet, but what I actually want to try to do is hot reloading for the assets. So right now there's 6 different asteroid art assets that are sort of in the game, and there's actually a lot. The artists have produced just a ton of these already. So what I want to be able to do is allow them to sort of decide which ones they want to use by swapping them out. Or see, like, do we use all of them? Do we like change the balance of how many of them we want, or tweak them in certain ways, and so on. I want them to be able to easily do that while playing a loop like this. And so what I'm going to do is build up the various things we need to make that happen. First, though, I'm going to need some test asteroids, and to make sure that it's working, I want my test asteroids to be obviously different than the existing asteroids, so I'm going to make them blue. That's the first thing I need to do. If I come in here, the game data is all right here. There's a lot of PNGs that aren't being used yet. Like I said, there's a lot more of these things. Not all of them are in use. But these 6 here, these are the real ones, and I want to make blue versions of the same thing. Alright, so what I'm going to do is say, this is the game data folder. I can't run this experiment in this folder. So what I'm going to do is introduce a sort of assets folder here. I'm going to throw those in there. And I'm going to switch over to my bitmap magic project real quick. Because with bitmap magic, I can do very basic things for manipulating bitmaps. I thought the paste bug was fixed. Okay, 1 minute. Still have the paste bug. I thought that was fixed earlier today, but I guess it only happens sometimes. Alright, so gotta fix that. Alright, the paste bug, by the way, is that if I have a lot of text and I paste it, it doesn't always, like if I took all of this and I pasted it, see my cursor is now not at the bottom of the paste, even though that's where it should be. And it looks like after one paste it worked, like that one worked, but the first one did not. And so I guess that's why I thought it was working, because I was looking at subsequent pastes where it doesn't have that problem, but somehow the first one does, which is really weird. But anyway, target image. Yes. So what this basically does is it lets me read in a bitmap and turn it into just sort of, you know, RGB pixels and then spit it back out. And so what I'm going to do real quick is upgrade it so that it can do multiple files at a time. And I'm going to for each one of these we're going to go I want to do starting at 1. We're going to do the bitmap magic on all of them. Alright, so now I got that set up. Now, the thing I want to do is I want to swap the red and blue channels. So here I'm reading in red and blue. This is making them dull. That's not what I want to do. I want to set what I should really have is like RGB and then U8. Well, should also have an A, right? So that would be like A equals 24. And hold on, let me fix some stuff here. There we go. ARGB, A goes right there, and so this here, let me make this a bit shift 24, but I want to introduce actually ARGB O versions, right, for the output. And then what I'll have is RO equals R. O. No point in shifting by 0, so get rid of that. Okay, so now I want to switch the red channel with the blue channel. And that's right, this one does not have a build.bat. .268. Can I convert argument 1 from char to char star? Yes, well that should be an argv with 2 pointers. Alright, let's see if this works. I'll know that it worked if I can grab my bitmap magic, take it over to shmup, assets, ba-boom. Now let's go back to the shmup. Alright, so what I want to do is bitmap magic, astriod. Now the asteroids are named incorrectly, so you gotta watch out for that. Astriod. Well, what I should do is oops. Copy that. I should make a terminal emulator in 4ed. Actually, I've been planning to do that for a while because this is, you know, really annoying to use. And it'd be nice to just build something better into my editor, not switch back and forth. 16, 17, 18. Alright, so now we have blue versions. And the reason I did it this way is so that I could do new folder. Here's my blue versions. And then let me pop back over here to data. Here's my orange versions. Okay, so why did you decide that, okay, I don't understand why it decides to do list items in a few places. But anyway, now I'll be able to tell if I got my live asset reloading working, because it'll just, the asteroid will become blue. Now, the next thing I want to do is, for now anyway, I don't know if this is the interface that we actually want, but for now what the plan is that it's going to happen by dragging and dropping files onto the window. So let's take a look at that. Drop files. Alright, what does it take to get a drag and drop Win32? Here we go. Register drag drop. Registers the specified window as one that can be the target of an OLE drag and drop operation and specifies the iDrop target instance to use for drop operations. Okay. So that sounds like something I want to call. Okay, hwind. Start till we got the hwind. Initialize client contact or OpenGL contacts. Begin the main loop. Right here I'll do begin drag and drop, and this is if def developer and if register drag drop, it needs the hwind and it needs this drop target. So now right here it looks like I need a drop target. Alright. What is this iDrop target interface thingy? Let's see. Determine the effect of the drop on the target application, incorporating in any valid drop data when the drop occurs. Interface is one of the interfaces you implement to provide drag and drop operations in your application. Its methods used in any application that can be a target for data during a drag and drop operation. A drop target application is responsible for determining the effect of the drop on the target application, incorporating any valid dropped data when the drop occurs, communicating the target feedback to the source so the source application can provide application appropriate visual feedback such as setting the cursor. Implementing drag scrolling. Registering and revoking its application windows as drop targets. Interface contains methods that handle all these responsibilities except registering and revoking the application window as a drop target, for which you must call the register drag drop and revoke drag drop functions. Fine. Implement the iDrop target interface if you are developing an application that can act as a target for drag and drop operation. The iDrop target interface is associated with your application windows and is implemented on your window objects. Call a register drag drop function to register your window objects as drop targets. Right, when to use. You do not call methods of iDrop directly. Do drag drop function calls the iDrop target methods doing the drag and drop operation. Yes. For example, blah 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 blah. Okay, so how do I do this? Is this like some kind of COM craziness, or what's the deal? When it detects the mouse has hovered over a... Give me an example of how I implement it. How to implement iDrop target. Couldn't just send messages to my window for whatever reason. That's fine. Here in part 6 of the guide, I'll introduce a lesser used type of shell extension, the drop handler. This type can be used to add drag and drop functionality to Explorer, where the file being dropped on the drop target determines the extension that gets invoked. This article assumes that you understand the basics of shell extensions and are familiar with MFC classes used to interact with the shell. Okay. Is this like something? Is it a class I inherit from it? Is it like literal C++? Send to clone. Yes, I've definitely entered COMLAN now. You should be familiar with the setup steps now, so I'll skip the instructions for going through VC Wizards. If you're following along in the Wizards, make a new ATL com app called Send to Clone with a C++ implement. Okay, one moment, please. Win32, drag and drop without com. Shortcut, there was no direct way to find the shortcut. I figured out the easiest way for the user to drag and drop it onto my utilities window. Surprisingly, because besides WM drop files legacy from Windows 3.1, formal Windows drag and drop support is limited to COM or higher. However, Anders Carlson has released a library, a simple C source that hides the COM ugliness and gives Win32 API C coders something that feels familiar. Okay. Carlson's drag and drop C library for Windows is a single .c file that can be added to your project to implement a COM interface that exposes Windows drag and drop functionality to you as a few simple C function calls. This lets your Win32 API based app written in straight C receive drop events via a callback function or window message, which is what it should fucking be to begin with, or initiate a drag operation with a few easy steps. I'm assuming here that you're already familiar with writing Windows apps using the Win32 API. Alright, I'm going to use it. Yep. Alright. Drag and drop. Cut. Ba-doop. 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 Alright, let's see about this. Ba-doop. Ba-doop. Alright, I'm going to take a quick look at this. Let's start with a test code just to see what it's doing. I guess while I'm here, I'll open this one up. Drag a layer for implementing drag and drop in Windows. Create my drop source. Bool, right click, clip format. Okay. Create my drop source. Text my drag drop source extension. My register drag drop. WM app drop. Alright, so you're defining your own drop your own window message parameter there. Or here you're having a callback. Clip format CF, HData, HWind, point where the drop happened, and some user data. I wonder what that does. My register drag drop. Hey, Fiery Drake. Welcome to the stream. So here it's registering the drag drop. Here it's getting a message. I'm handling it. What is my register drag drop? So here's that. Okay, so that user data just gets put into the register call, and then it gets read back out to you when the drop happens on the window. What about these other things? What do they do? Create data object. Does that show up anywhere here? I'm not sure. Let's see if that PDF helps at all. There's a PDF. It might be documentation. Just to catch you up, Fiery Drake, I am trying to do hot asset reloading for Cipher Drive today, and I'm trying to do it by allowing the artist to just drag and drop updated versions of the art onto the window while it's running, and swap out the art that way. So first I'm trying to receive drop messages in a useful way, and the only supported version is based on COM, so I'm using a library to wrap that up. I'm using someone else's library that already exists. Gotta go to downloads. Drag drop is around here somewhere. Cut. I don't want that in there. I'll put that in here. Paste. Alright, let's see. Alright, so text drops, file drops. The problem is that the lower level part of Windows is clean C API, just like most other modern operating systems, which is not to say that C is a particularly good language to write applications in, but C has the advantage of being of such a low level nature that nearly all of the applications blah 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 blah. So this is just explaining why you don't use object-oriented programming to write an operating system. That makes perfect sense. I just want to see an example of how it's sort of supposed to work. My drag and drop init. Okay. My drag and drop init. My drag drop text, my register drag drop. So what does something like my drag drop text do? When this happens, really depends on your application. In some code, I have two examples. One's using a static control, one using edit control. Okay, so this is if you want to do your own, create your own droppable objects. I just want to receive droppable objects. Okay, so let's suppose for a moment that I go to my build real quick. Wait, do I have foreign here? Yeah, so let's say I just say we're going to try this, and I'm going to grab these, as these appear to be the only two files you need to make it work. And I take it over here, and there we go. Now, let me get rid of these versions, because those are not the localer ones. I want the ones I'm actually including. And I want in here, I want to include, by the way, how is Win32CD? Well, doesn't matter. Drag and drop.h. I think I know it. I think I know what's going on there. Okay. Okay. And if I can drag, I have that. Then I need to do my drag drop init somewhere in main. So drag and drop. And we're not using that because it involves craziness. Drop target, you're out. Drop, there we go. My drag drop init null, which means 0. My drag drop init. And then I want to my register drag drop on the window handle. I need to know what these other things do now. So what is the deal there? What's a my register drag drop? Def text, global lock, set window text, global unlock. So this is kind of like clipboard stuff. My register drag drop. There we go. An array of clipboard formats supported. I see. The number of elements in the P format array. Gotcha. Gotcha, thank you. So we want a clip format formats equals, and then we'll list those, and then I'll drop that here. Formats array count formats. I'm gonna throw all this into brackets in case that's not. Oh, need a parenthesis. There we go. And here I want CF. What type of clip formats are available? I want CF file or something like that, right? Text, bitmap, metafile picked. So something with the word file, and I'm just not sure which. DSP metafile picked, DSPNH metafile, ENH metafile, metafile picked. Those are the options. What is that? Where's the description? Alright, here's a plan. I'm going to get a copy of this, and then I'm going to go boom, like that, and I'm going to take each one of these little things and put them all in the list. I'm going to handle them all. And then when I drag a file on there, it'll tell me what kind it's getting. Because I don't want to just handle bitmaps. I don't think just dragging a bitmap file on there does that. Like, I want to be able to handle a PNG, for instance, or a compressed format of my own type. So I'm going to handle all the types, and you're going to tell me which one it is later. And now let's see what else we got. The message to send unless a callback is used. I'll use a callback. WM null. Win32 drop callback. Now, what is that signature? Something like this. D word, then all of that. Then basically what I'm going to do to get this party started is we're going to take that. Somewhere in here I've got, there it is. And I'm going to, for each one of those, I'm going to replace CF with case, oh, come on. I want to replace, hold on, do it this way. CF with case space CF, boom. And then you guys, you're all becoming colons. Alright, now all of you colons are becoming colon space break, and we're going to have a sort of which just going to start like so, and then well, let's do it this way. Each colon is now becoming colon space which equals a new empty string. And then I'm going to put this into each of those. There we go, and then we can output debug string which, followed by a new line. And then we need to return a D word. What do you suggest my drop proc? What do you suggest I return? Here we go. Drop effect none. Cool. I'm guessing that's what we're returning? Yes. We'll go with that. Okay. Output debug, is it string spelled out? Still not done. My register drag drop. Take me to that. Message drop proc. Oh, there's one more. User data. Right, I was looking at that before. I don't need any user data. Right. Really? Oh, it's just a C file. You need that as well? Okay. That's weird. You did say you needed that in the thing, but okay. We can handle that. Resource.h. Wait, what is that? Okay, what does the resource contribute, I wonder? Because it's not in the main source. IDD dialog menu 1 IDR. How about file dialog about? Okay, none of those are there. How AP Studio? How about underscore APS? Yeah, you don't need to include resource.h. You're just full of it. Come on. What is this? Okay. Foreign drag and drop C 41. So this is like an abstract class, C++ style, that it's trying to instantiate here. How is this supposed to work? Does it behave differently if you compile as C, I wonder? Because this is forcing it to compile in C++. Let me try that. Let's just say that I add this as a separate compile unit right here. Target, and then include code foreign slash drag and drop.c. There we go, that's a lot better. GWL winproc. It's the wrong function, right? Why is the, like, bracket right there indented? This is like, oh man, all of them are indented. Whoa. This is crazy town code. Huh, that was not the cast it was worried about. It's not equal 0. Revoke, drag, drop. Cast on L value. Alright, I'm just going to ignore these warnings and we'll get back to doing something useful. So let's see, in addition to all of that, I would like to now ignore the following things. 4213 and 4057. Alright, back to drag and drop C425. There's still an error here, huh? GL wind proc. GWL wind proc. Nothing to do with this file. Wind proc. If you set with the GWL wind proc index to replace the window procedure. Alright. GWL wind proc -4. Set a new address for the window procedure. Alright. Now I gotta tell it not to name mingle. Damn. OLE. Yes, I need to link to something I'm not linking to, I think. So let's look at one of these function names here. LE initialize. Fiery Drink, you got a blue screen on Windows 10, huh? Well, Windows 10's been sort of bothering me a lot because up until very recently I thought had a window or a 4-coder bug that I thought was Windows 10, but now it's happening on Windows 8.1, so it wasn't Windows 10. But that was I was worried I was gonna have to get a Windows 10 computer, but looks like I'm out of that. Alright, so what I'd like to do here is say put this on a separate line because I don't want this to be around forever. WinLibs, which actually means I need to do, surprised this compiled actually, warning ops. Well, I guess that's because W4 would have been turned off. And WX, yeah. WinLibs, OLE32lib. Try that again. Now we're almost there. Drag drop 391. Don't need you. 907. Which library do you need? Alright. There we go. Okay, so now if I run Cipher Drive, finally, like an hour later, and I, let's see, go to my assets folder here, and I pull up, let's see, I wanna be able to drop a blue asteroid onto the game. Did I get an output? H-drop. Alright, I'm curious to experiment with this for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to experiment with it. That came out really nice and smooth. I'm going to grab some more assets and just drop them in, see what I got that time. More CF drop. What if I grabbed 3 of these and drop all of them? Also an H drop. Okay, so H drop appears to be what I want for dropping in files. But now I'm curious about other things this can do. So let's say, for instance, that I were to edit this with Paint real quick, and then close it, and then pop over. Wait, no, I can't close it. What I gotta do is open it up in Paint, and then no, that didn't work. Okay, so I don't see how to drag and drop a bitmap there. Don't save. That's fine. Let's see if there's anything else I can do. Let me grab some text off of hex chat here, and then click and see if I can find some way to click and drag it. Now that just changes the highlighting. Well, that's fine then. So I can drop or files on though. Let me just try some other file types real quick, just to double check. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So now we've answered my first question, which is what type of drop do I actually care about? It appears it's an H drop that I care about, and nothing else. Cool. So I want to grab all this. Oops. Clip format CF. Return which. I'll just leave this sitting around in case I ever want it again. And now, when I go down to my format list, I know that HDrop is what I want. Okay. Stream drop. I see no evidence of a stream drop on my side, Fiery Drake. None at all. Okay. So we should be able to get HDrops now. What are some of the other parameters we get in that callback? Huh, that's weird. Well, I don't think I dropped, but maybe it was like a split second drop situation that was not, you know, visible at the bottom of the little OBS bar. Okay, what else do I get? I get HData, which I'm imagining is kind of like when you get the same thing for a clipboard, the window that's associated with it. Now, is this happening on a separate thread? Or when does this get... I'm registering the callback, but I need to know when to... I wish I could say trigger the callback now if it needs to happen, and otherwise you just queue up results. But let me go see if it says anything over here. Thread... when it does, such as some text, something is dropped, one of the two well-known things happen. A callback you provided when you registered is called, just like with information on what was dropped, the format of it, and where. Alternatively, message is sent. This is a message of your choice. The message again to the message is information on what. I'm gonna switch to the message just because that makes the timing of it explicit, I think. Wait, does it? It could... There's still a message callback. It could happen anytime. Technically. Right? There's a few more tricks up its sleeve, but actually the cases were just want to drag and text, or be the receiver of some text or a file, or even when working with custom format. So above will be okay, but the library also allows you to work with a lower level object should you wish to get some more functionality and control. That's fine. What about time? I need to know when I get the message. And is it on the same thread? Well, there's one other way I can find out. Win32 drop. This is not the Win32 layer. Win32 drop callback. You right there. I need a... Oh, gotta build it first. So what I should be able to do is stop execution inside the callback and then look and see okay, I got that on the main thread. Worker thread. I guess those are all open for OpenGL and such things. RPC callback thread. Yikes. But yeah, those look like they're happening on the main thread. Alright, there. As response to dispatching a message. Okay, so I'm going to assume that it always happens here. And just to be doubly extra positive that it only happens there, I'm going to add like file drop lock, right? And what I'll do is down here where I'm dispatching the message, win32.fileDropLock equals 1. I could even like atomically set that if I wanted. Don't know if would that be any good. Well, 0. It's got to happen inside there. So what I'm gonna do is callback. For now, let's just start with assert win32 file drop lock. There we go. Okay, so now we're not getting any drops at all outside of the input processing loop that we don't expect. So next, and if we get one that's like, oh, that shouldn't have happened, I'll just turn that into an if, right? And it's like, do nothing if it happens in the wrong spot, and just be like, sorry, bros, they're screwing me up. Okay. So now I need to get access to the file. And really all I want is the file name, although I don't know how easy that's going to be. So let's take a look again at some example stuff. Actually, let's take a look at... I'm not sure what to look at for this. I'll start with the docs, see if that works. Let's see. So, file. I want to get an example of... So that's all the mentions of file. What about hdata? locking the H data. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to say, when this happens, let's global lock the H data, global unlock H data, and then in the middle there let's output debug string A data. Alright. Boom. Okay. So yeah, what I got was not the name of the file. I assume I'm getting hdrop. Yeah. Key state PT tells me where I dropped it, which is kind of neat. But I don't know what to do with this H data here. Any other examples of H data? H data or H global? Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, that's called an H global. So let's do a quick search on that, see what that's about. So is it just it's just a handle to a file maybe? So let's try something. Get file name from handle. Get final path name by handle introduced in Windows Vista and Windows. Will return a path from a handle. If you need to do this on earlier releases of Windows, the following example obtains a file name from a handle to a file object using a file mapping object. Oh, fuck's sake. Okay. Create file mapping. Map view of file. Function to create the mapping. Next, it uses the get map file name function to obtain the file name. Holy fuck. Okay. So let's try this. There, I input the file. How do you output the name? You're returning true or false. Is that like a global character array you were putting that in? I'm confused. The file size. So this doesn't work on files with a length of 0. That's great. Good thing I don't need that case. Create a file mapping object. Get mapped file name. View file. Translate path with device name to driver letters. Get logical drive string. Copy the drive letter to the template string. Drive. Replace device path with DOS path. Yeah, so that... Okay, so it's... gonna require a little bit more from me than that. Underscore T printf. Let's pretend like I don't care about that. Get mapped file name. Okay, so no. Done with that. Let's try something else. We can just use this method. File path tch file path. The size in tchars does not include a null termination character. Okay. Hdata. Length tchar 120. Whoops. File path 124. File path array count. File path flags, huh? With a drive letter. Return the path with a volume GUID path instead of the drive name. Return the path with no drive. Return the path with the volume device path. Alright. 0. So we get that. And now I should be able to, let me build this first. I should be able to see if that gives me the file that I think it gives me. Boop. Man. So you're telling me that you don't have a file there. So that's not what it is. Okay, so I'm kind of not sure how to get the file once I see that there's been a drop. Hglobal file name drop file. For fuck's sake. Win32 get file from Hglobal. Win32 drag and drop files. I wonder if this is in the example code at all. Shmup foreign drag and drop test.c hdrop. Okay, so this does enable hdrop, which is a good first step. Drag query file. Okay. So there's a special function just for this. Why would that not be the same? I guess it's not an open file. You haven't opened the file. It's just like the name, the handle, like the hglobal is just some string. Well. Okay. Query file. I think this could work the same exact way your clipboard works, though. Unless you happen to query this for clipboards too, maybe you do. Hdrop, uint file. What is this thing doing? So hdrop is the hdata from hglobal. Type up there. So up there it's hglobal, down here it's hdrop. Doesn't matter. Then we say ifile, index of the file to query. So if I'm getting multiple files, if the value of this parameter is blah 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 blah, returns a count of the files dropped. Awesome! Okay. Thank you, sir. So let's start with that, huh? So we want a sort of oh, it's uint. So that's the H data. OX, what is it? If it's, how did that just type in 86? Oh, I tab and it's auto-completing. It's kind of funny. What if I have like one tab? Oh, okay, is it X? 8664, I see. Cool. Cool. That value right there. No define for it, no enum, just, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, just a max uint. That's fine. 0, 0. So let's see if that is sort of doing what I would expect. Whoops. Stop. Gotcha. Alright, now I drop you right there. And I got a count of 1. Alright, things are starting to go my way. Take you 3, drop you right there. Count of 3. Awesome. Let's do one more. Let me grab all the files in the folder, drop them in. 6. Okay. There we go. That's a little more like it. Okay. So now let's see, now we can start querying each individual file. So drag query file hdrop hdata. Here's the file I want, and I'm gonna need to use those other parameters to get stuff out. So you're using tchar file path 1024 for now, file path array count, file path, and then let's output debug string w the file path. From tchar to lpcw. Those aren't the same? Is tchar like normal? Oh, cool. I like how this one does not in or out. Boop. So there are 6 of them. The first one is asteroid 16, asteroid 17, asteroid 18, asteroid 1, asteroid 2, asteroid 3. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So what that means I can do now is I can incorporate that into the input to the dev layer, right? Now I'm gonna need to have a way to just store basically an arbitrary number of sort of file names, right? Because I probably want to, I don't know, probably 100 at once wouldn't be likely case. But, you know, if I could support that many, I think that would be fair. So maybe like 64, right? Or 128 max files all at once. But then I also need to keep track of, or keep in mind that that's a lot of characters when each file can be a fairly long named thing, especially the way Connor does very deep nesting of folders. When he's organizing a project, there's just a lot there. Now, this is the dev side, so let me just plug that in real quick and see if it's actually a problem, or if I can just do set aside all that memory. So if I do like a kilobyte per file name, that should be enough, I think. And if I support 128 of them, right, you're talking about 128 kilobytes at that point. That's nothing. We'll just do that. So cd.h input. Okay, dev input. So dev input has regular input plus extra stuff. Now what we're going to add is one of those extra things will be dev file drop, and each file drop will just be a name that takes 1024 bytes, and then down here we'll have U32 drop count, right? And then we'll have file drop drops, 128 of those. Now I do have to be careful that I'm not blowing out the size of the stack. Again, that's only 100 kilobytes, but doing stuff like that kind of makes me a little nervous, so let me go change that so that the dev input... Oh, is it already stored in Win32? Dev input... Oh, it is. Awesome. And that's the global, so that can be as big as it needs to be. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So, if that's the case, then what I'll do is we'll say every time we're about to go and start receiving inputs here. Where's my loop? There it is. Every time we're about to start receiving inputs, what we're going to do is Win32, this will actually be if def developer, we'll have this, and if, right, and then, so Win32 dev input dot drop count will go to 0 right then, and we'll just record that during the loop. Now, file drop lock, that should be in there. So I believe that is if developer, yeah, okay. Okay, then we're only getting the drops if we're in developer mode. We're only doing the locking and the recounting. Okay, so now when I get a lock, or when I get a drop, you know, drop callback basically, instead of outputting each of these things, what I want to do is say, well, first of all, if count is greater than array count of Win32 dev input dot drops, right? Then just do count equals that array count, right? And what we can actually do is make that a max there, and then these two here, we just kill them out and make them maxes instead. Okay, so now we're going to just ignore all the extra files that go past the max every frame. Maybe we could do something smarter than that in the future. Not sure what that would be. Maybe if I dynamically allocate, I don't know. I feel like that's enough files and a long enough file name that it should all just work. And since this is a dev feature, it doesn't matter if it takes 100K, right? Of just 100K sitting aside is not a problem on the dev machine. So, it's like nothing actually when you think about it. Okay, so this becomes a matter of getting a file drop. Right, so we get the next available drop, and then we go, okay. Although what we should do is say that max here is reduced by the drop count off the bat. That way, if I happen to get 2 of these messages in a row somehow, it'll still work basically the same way. Then what I can do is mem copy into the drop's name from, or we'll stern copy this. A stern copy is always a good one. I'll stern copy from the file path array wait, drag query file. Did that say it returns then this when the function copies a file name to the buffer, the return value is a count of the characters copied, not include. Okay, perfect, perfect. dword len. Alright, so what we can do now is say, we don't need this. We'll do a mem copy into there from len, and then we'll say is, look, len has to be strictly less than 1024, because the last, actually there, right, so we don't take the drop at all, we don't increase the counter, we ignore file names that are too long, and maybe what we'll do is say else to do issue warning to developer person who has long file name. Okay, and then the drop name len will be null terminated like so. And that'll just go through and generate all of those. So then what I can do is over here I'll add, there we go. If I go over to cd.cpp, I go down to app step, right, what I can do is in the developer logic here, we can say, look, if suppose dev input indicated that drop count was greater than 0, right? This is handling file drops. Then what I want to do is I'm going to loop over them. and for each one I need to do something. But for now, I'm going to do something that allows me to place a breakpoint, and then I'm going to try to build and switch over there in case something goes wrong. And it did. Okay, so the game should be running now. Okay. And let me see, I can close some of the stuff that I don't need to look at so often. And right here, I'm going to see if I get a breakpoint there. I can kill this breakpoint. I want to see if I get the breakpoint inside the dev logic handler now when I drag and drop this. Count is 6. Bada boom. Okay. So now I'm getting my file names in here, and we're just looping over them, not doing anything with them, which is whatever, it's fine. So next, what I basically want to do is something like, at each file name, I want to do a sort of replace resource, or inject resource, or what's the thing? Well, the exact rule here is not totally clear to me. But I now have the ability to respond to these drops at least. Now let's handle the other end of this problem. I'm transitioning out to the asset replacement problem. And boy, I'm kind of out of time. Maybe I should stream sometime again before my 4Coder stream on Wednesday to do this asset reloading. Man, that file drop took longer than I expected. Oh well. So let me do a little bit more today. I'm going to get a file name. I can parse out which file it is by looking at the beginning of the file name, and sort of the rule is supposed to be if it's the same, ignoring the rest of the path, if the file name matches an existing file name, we want to swap it out. Right? So that's the first thing I need to do is find out, is this a file name that we think we need to swap? And there's actually a lot of stuff that's got to go into that, because we don't even right now keep track of the list of file names that we have assets for. And I think the way this needs to work is the artists can just take whatever art they want and plop it into the game, and then the game will extract that and turn it into the asset pack system or like whatever. So like for now it's just the data folder, and it just means it grabs a copy of that file, it puts it in the data folder, and then either adds it to the sort of, if it's a new file name, it adds it to the sort of asset list of the game, and if it's not a new asset, it swaps out that one. So it's got to kill the OpenGL texture or replace its texture without killing it somehow. I think there's ways to do that with like streaming the text. So there's got to be something like that. So let me start by just keeping track of which let's start by keeping track of which files are in use. And the way we could do that is right here I have a system that sort of looks at all of the assets of the game, and I sort of made this basic thing that says we're going to have IDs and file names and bind them together. And what I'm really saying is now the file name is going to be how we bind new assets to replacing old assets, right? And I also kind of plan to eliminate these IDs because I don't want to have to type out each one of them. That'll be a part of the asset management system, is that you've got just these list of things. So really what I want to do is start defining a data structure that is saved between like runs of the dev game and is loaded up to do this. So that I think I have to switch to working on an asset pack before I can do any more of this, really, because, or at least an asset manifest file of some kind, so that we can do this hot swapping correctly. yeah, feels like that's gonna take a little while, but I need to develop that asset pack anyway. So you know, I think I'm gonna cut it off here. It's gonna get too involved to start that now. So really, what I need to do is over the next week, I'll probably work on figuring out the asset pack that I need, and yeah, working out the data format there and the API to it in the code, and then uh, maybe next Monday on my next Cipher Drive stream, I'll finally actually be ready to do hot reloading of the assets. But now that I think about it, I can't really do that without the main asset system in place, unless I just hack something in. But that would not necessarily be. I mean, I could like practice evicting the OpenGL texture, and just say like we're always replacing asteroid 1, right? So I could say, let's ignore the file name for now, and let's just try to evit bitmap for like the asteroid 1 image, and then reload asteroid 1 based on whatever the first file is that I drop in the list of files, right? Yeah, that would at least get me kind of some basic ideas of some of the stuff I gotta do. Well, there's two basically separate problems. There's storing the long-term change and doing the hot swap. And I feel like I can make a little progress on the hot swap if I start right now. So we're going to do this. Temporarily, we're going to say, yes, I've got this loop that looks at everything, but I'm really only going to deal with that. That's just, like, obviously it's dumb looking code, but that's because I just want to, I'm going to change the structure of that very soon anyway. And that's just a temporary way to do this sort of hacky version. And so what I want to do is I want to say, I get in this new file name, and I want to sort of redo this binding here, right? So I want to, using the main target, replace BMP main target with, what's this new file name? It's in dev, well, let me do drops plus I, or drop I dot name. That'll give me the full path to the file name that I want to replace with, and then I want to replace asteroid 1. Okay. And I need the dev file drops equals the dev input drops. Right, so now I can get that first drop and replace the asteroid 1 with whatever image I put in there. And now I just need to implement something that does that operation, which I think I can do. There we go. Void replace BMP. Here's a target. Here's the file name. Here's the bitmap ID. Alright. And then if I go to the render target, CPP, bind BMP, that's all debug stuff that can go out. Okay. Void replace BMP render target file name I32 image ID. So those should say image ID, not bitmap ID. Alright, now what I want to do is something like grab all that. Definitely still got a paste bug. Grab the render target, which we actually already have. Get a partition, which is going to be the target's push partition. And then we're going to get, why is that a two-liner? That should not be a two-liner, that looks stupid. I write stupid code sometimes. Okay. So now I get that image, and let's see. I try to pull out bitmap info, so I begin temporary memory, begin dumping the file into local memory here. If that succeeds, I get it here. I read this out here, and now what I need to do is, okay, we're now almost ready to do everything. I just want to be able to Google OpenGL kill texture. Destroy texture. Delete texture. Here we go. Alright. It exists. It's not that hard to do. So when we get this far, if we're all the way down to here, where do I actually set this texture? Okay, I'll do it right here. Delete texture. Delete one texture. Delete that texture. Right, so that deletes the old texture, gens a new texture, and then sets it up using the bitmaps data. And that all happens, we're requiring that all of this happens before rendering begins. So basically replace bitmap type functions won't be allowed to happen once rendering begins, because then the push part is being used for pushing on commands, and it won't be big. Well, actually we can kind of do it anytime as long as we have enough space in there. Anyway, I want to see if this works. I'm very curious. Alright, so here they come. Let me replace asteroid 1 with this one. Bloop. Uh-oh. What went wrong? Memset data is a null putter. Ah. Did we run out of space? Yeah, it's too big. So what we need is just a bigger partition. That's fine. What I'll do is I'll just pass in a better partition, because the command partition is not necessarily big enough. And then this we can kind of work independently of that anyway, which is good. So when I do render, let me change that over here, target.h. He needs to know what partition he can use for his temporary memory. And then you right here, you can tell him, go ahead and use the, I think devvars has a big partition. Yeah, let's try that. So go ahead and use the devvars part. Alright, now I'm going to replace asteroid 1 with this image. Bloop. Ah, it's still happening. So the partition comes in. That's fine. Kind of, I guess, whatever. Position is there. Why is this 1024 by 256? 262144. That's not even a megabyte, okay? Now the partition that I'm passing in is the dev partition. 3538944. Yeah, why is that so full? Why is... that's weird. Okay, I want to stop it right there and see what's going on. Whoops, not right there. Don't care about that. stop it right here, I guess. Because the loading works just fine. It's when I drop this in that things get wonky. So the partition we're looking at has, what is this? 8 megabytes available to it, looks like, right? And it's not using any of it, which is incorrect, first of all. Yeah, you push that onto the normal vars. You should really be pushing that onto the dev vars. And while I'm at it, I should probably not be using... Don't use game's actual transpart for dev code. Set aside another dev transpart instead if you must. Drop that in. Alright, so now, by the way, the partition is not empty, but it's got 8 megabytes and it's only using like 100 kilobytes. Right, so it's got plenty of megabytes left, or megabytes left. We come in here, we still have plenty of megabytes left. Do we get data? We do. Okay. Ah, look at that. So now, whichever image I drop in replaces the Asteroid 1 ID with that blue thing. Now, just to make it more impressive, what I should do is say, let's take this back out and say, well, let's do if I is less than 6, asteroid plus I, right? So I'm replacing up to 6 asteroids with up to 6 input images. And now we can have a little party here, right? Because if I run this, I've got orange assets flying across the screen. And then I'm going to grab all of these, and I'm going to drag and drop them in, like that. Very cool. And of course, another thing I can do is I can play around for a little bit. Here come these blue asteroids. And then I can loop that. Alright, so now it's just doing what I was just doing over and over again. And while it's doing it, I can just start dropping in replacements. Bloop. 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 Oh, that's really neat. Bloop. Here, they're going to become orange right, let's see, right now. Now I'm going to make them blue again. Right now. And it can just keep looping and looping forever. If I want, I can pause it. So let me do that. Pause. Now I can just go, okay. Now, in this image, right, I want to make all of them orange. I don't know. I don't know if I like the orange ones. I can sort of randomly guess how to replace one. Now, of course, what I really need is better control over which asset replaces which, because right now I can sort of grab a partial group and maybe replace some, but doesn't always work out just right. And it looks like the order they're coming in is random, so I don't even really have a guarantee, even with this current system. Yeah, if I just keep doing this, I just get different orders. Bloop. 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 Yeah, very cool. Keep playing the loop. Let's make them all small. I can do that by grabbing... So here's a trick I can do. I want to make them all small. So what I'm going to do is say, grab these 3 orange ones, come over here to the blue asset pack and paste them in. Uh-oh, that's going to replace them. Ooh, okay, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to paste them here. Now I've got 3 things called copy 1, 2, 3. I'm going to grab 6 small ones and drop them all in. Boop. Now they're all small. Oh, that's a lot of fun. That is pretty cool. So there we have it. I can now swap out textures while the game is looping, and so will the artists be able to, since it's so easy to do. I obviously have to help them out a little bit more, because there's a few issues still that I need to work on. One is the asset system doesn't really exist yet, so there's no way to say this asset needs to get replaced with this image and so on. While I'm here, by the way, let me just set those back to all normal sizes so that it looks cooler. And then the other thing that I'm missing is if you look at the actual game data we have, which this folder here, what I actually want to have is that the game data folder will just be sort of like a pre-version of the packed asset file, and it'll just be assets will be stored outside of the code folder, and this code folder will stop getting committed. But the idea is, or this data folder will stop getting committed. But the data folder will be where we actually store like what the game's last. Whenever the dev does an update, it'll update these files. Is my plan, right? So they won't actually be here, but they'll have, like, for instance, all these PNGs in the asset file. All right, so let me move all these to the asset file real quick. Boom. So here we are in the asset file. We got all these PNGs, and we want to drag and drop those in. Well, the thing is that won't really work right now. Right? Nothing's ever going to turn orange with me doing that because they're PNGs, and it's going to look at them and go, "That's not a bitmap." Fiery Drake says that there's probably a game in just the drag and drop alone, so you drag and drop images onto your game to like fulfill certain criteria, which I have to admit I totally agree. That would be a really fun game. It's like just sort of like, oh, you can drag and drop things onto here, and of course what you could do is go even farther and be like, all right, there's like boxes, and what you're doing is putting different images in different boxes. So where you put, like we saw, I get the point on the screen where the drop happens, so I can respond to exact precise locations, which by the way I should probably include in the drop, so that I can like have a list, right? So we can have like, here's a list of assets, right? Imagine this, we're in like, this is debug mode, but imagine we're in dev mode, because there's F1 is debug, F2 is dev. If I go into dev mode, and then I've got like a list of assets, and then I go, this asset here I want to replace, so then I've got over here my new asset, and I want to drag and drop, I'll put it over the asset I want to replace and drop it in. But anyways, what I was going to say is I need the new asset like management system. I need a sort of manifest of what all assets are and the names that they have so that they bind up correctly. And then I want to be able to do things like, oh, if it's a PNG, that's fine, we'll just convert that into the bitmap after the drop, right? Because that's not too hard to add either at that point. And what will just happen is the dev version will just be the whole art pipeline, it'll be the whole editing tool, it'll be everything that you need to make the game, basically. There will be no tool that we use that isn't just bundled up in the game. That's one of the things I'm going for here. So there we go. Let me just one more time because it's just so cool. Bloop. So cool. All right. Yeah, Fiery Drake has the right idea, which is that you eventually just link the Photoshop file directly to the asset, right? And then whenever the artist saves the file, it automatically detects that the file has updated, and then loads the Photoshop file, converts it to the bitmap, and there's no drag and drop anymore. You just have like immediate turnaround on save. And I might still have a thing where you can like immediately say like export your bitmap or export your PNG and it'll automatically detect that and fix for you. But I wanted this too because I know that a lot of the time like sort of A/B testing, going back and forth between two things, is something that like Connor likes to do. Like show you type version A, show you type version B, which do you like better? And I felt like having the two copies of the same image in existence, like I have this orange and blue folder, so it's like A and B, right? You've got the first type and the second type, and you can just swap back and forth by dragging and dropping without recreating the changes. But I do feel like a version that does loading on the file change would also be useful in a lot of ways. So, although one cool idea we could go with that Fire Drake's just put in my head is that once you begin dev mode, it'll be like we just have the assets that are in the game asset pack. But then once I do like a drag and drop like so, right? I drag and drop one image in like that, or if I do a bunch of them, somehow I'll make that work too. So you have like a group, and you just say here are all the images in this group and whatever. Whenever I do that, it could be a thing where it links to a file on your computer, right? And then from then on, it keeps track of not only the file name, but the exact path, and then watches that path if it changes, and then hot loads then too. That way, you can initialize like I'm updating this file by dragging and dropping it into the window, and then if you save the file after that, it will continue. That way, no matter which computer you're on, you can lay your files out however you want. And you can tweak them sort of just by saving and exporting. Anyways, this has been fun. Thank you, Fiery Drake, and other people who I forget who else showed up. But thank you, everyone who showed up and hung out at some point. And there'll probably be more of this week, if not next week, or next week, if not this week, is what I mean to say, so that we can get the this all working with an asset system too. All right, thanks for joining. Later.